Charlie Daniels, country music star, recently passed away. Also got a lot of heat for, well, his support of America, his love of America. The interaction I had with Charlie Daniels was 42 years ago. It's why I became a country music fan. At the time, I was at Bucknell University in undergraduate school. And at Bucknell, I double majored in chemistry and economics. The economics department was seen as a market socialist group, which is marketing for, they were really Marxists, the vast majority. There were a couple that weren't, but the vast majority were Marxist. And they fondly, at the time, called me Capitalist Dave. I can't imagine what it would be like there now. They wouldn't look at me fondly, and I'm sure that I probably would have a very difficult time getting a B, let alone a C, in many of the courses, based on the tack that I took of always speaking about free markets and capitalism. There was a particular day I was in class, and what the professor used to do would be go on these 45-minute tirades about a certain issue or issues and bend it all toward socialism or Marxism as the foundation for that particular class. And then the last 5 minutes he would call on me, call on Capitalist Dave or Free Market Dave, whichever they called me that day, and give my take on the last 5 minutes of a class. On a particular day, door opened, big guy, with a cowboy hat, big belt buckle, leather vest, boots, walked in the room and sat in the back of the classroom. It was Charlie Daniels. Charlie was going to play a concert that night at Bucknell. And one of the things I guess he did when he came to town is he would sometimes attend a class to hear what was going on. Well, he just happened to stroll into our class. And when he came in, I'm thinking, well, he has a reputation of being, pretty conservative. Let's see how this goes. And the professor did his usual 45-minute rant. Charlie Daniels didn't say a word. The professor turned to me and said, "Okay, Capitalist Dave, what's your take on this?" And I did 5 minutes. And when I was done, the professor pointed to Charlie Daniels, and he said, "Aren't you Charlie Daniels, country music? Going to have a concert tonight?" Stood up, booming voice. "Yes, I am." The prof said, "Well, do you have anything to say, Mr. Daniels, about what you heard in this classroom today?" Kind of looked around, and he said, "Yes, I do. I've heard a lot here today, and I've come to the conclusion that the only person in this room who knows what is really going on in the world is that guy right there." And he pointed at me. And then he sat back down. That was it. And then the professor dismissed the class. So afterwards, students were coming up and shaking. And he was very kind, very nice. Charlie Day shaking her hand. And then it was my turn. I went up to him and I said, "Well, thank you for your kind comment, Mr. Daniels." And he looks at me and goes, "Now, son, how often do you have to do this?" I said, "Twice a week." He goes, "For how much longer?" I go, "A couple months." And he looked at me and he goes, "You going to be able to do that?" I go, "Yes, sir, I'll be able to do that." He said, "I don't know how you do it." He goes, that first part of that whole class, he goes, that was really something. I go, "Well, it's like that all the time." And he looked at me and go, "Are you coming to the concert?" I go, "Yes, sir, I have tickets." He goes, because he goes, "If you didn't, I was going to get you some tickets." I go, well, thank you very much. And from that point forward, I became a country music fan and a fan of Charlie Daniels. And over the years, I followed him. And this past week, July 6th, he sustained a stroke and died. He was very prolific, not just in the music world, but he was very prolific in networking with our country, with Americans. He was very proud of his faith. He was very proud of his country. And one of the things he did is he was very prolific on Twitter. And I want to go back to a couple of his last Twitter posts, because he posted very regularly on Twitter, many times every day. He died on July 6th, 2020. On July 4th, here's what he said, quote, "We're sitting on the upstairs porch looking at the northern horizon and watching America light up. Fireworks going off all over the place. You may tear down statues and burn buildings, but you can't kill the spirit of patriots. When they've had enough, this madness will end." One of the things he did every day is he talked and tweeted about the number of veterans committing suicide every day in our country. The other thing he tweeted about every day was a very simple statement. Benghazi ain't going away. Got a lot of grief for doing that. Kept doing it every day. We discussed that issue this past week on our Sunday show with Michael Igmeyer, whose nephew, Sean Smith, died, one of the 4 victims in Benghazi. It's not going away. And it hasn't gone away because of patriots such as Charlie Daniels, who stepped forward. On July 5th, one of his last tweets, here's what he said, quote, "Lord, give us the courage to speak our mind, to be honest and bold about our feelings, no matter who or how many we go against." End quote. Charlie Daniels, an incredible American. Another incredible American is someone I've spoken quite extensively about on this platform, someone I consider a friend, General Michael Flynn. Muhammad Ali, Charlie Daniels, and General Flynn all love or loved America and the people of America. I've said a lot about General Flynn. From the very beginning, I told you that he was innocent. That has been proven to be the case. He was framed and he was set up by the deep state. See, the deep state despises patriots. They despise those who value freedom and liberty and actually try to enhance other people's freedom and liberty. When they put General Flynn on trial, it wasn't just for his freedom. It was for your freedom, my freedom, every American's freedom. I want to read to you a letter General Flynn recently wrote and made public. If we don't act, 2% of the people are about to control the other 98%. This was published in Western Journalism. General Flynn. I was once told if we're not careful, 2% of the passionate will control 98% of the indifferent 100% of the time. The more I've thought about this phrase, the more I believe it. There is now a small group of passionate people working hard to destroy our American way of life. Treason and treachery are rampant in our rule of law, and those law enforcement professionals who uphold our law are under the gun more than any time in our nation's history. These passionate 2% appear to be winning. Despite their countless good people trying to come to grips with everything else on their plates, our silent majority, what he calls the indifferent, can no longer be silent. If the United States wants to survive the onslaught of socialism, if we are to continue to enjoy self-government and the liberty of our hard-fought freedoms, we have to understand there are two opposing forces. One is the children of light, and the other is the children of darkness. Exactly what Muhammad Ali spoke about, and Charlie Daniels. As I recently wrote, the art and the exercise of self-governance require active participation by every American. I wasn't kidding. And voting is only part of that active participation. Time and again, the silent majority have been overwhelmed by the, quote, audacity and resolve, end quote, of small, well-organized, passionate groups. It's now time for us, the silent majority, the indifferent, to demonstrate both. The trials of our current times, like warfare, are immense and consequences severe, and they seem inconquerable. As a policewoman from Virginia told me, quote, people don't feel safe in their homes, and our police force is so demoralized we cannot function as we should. In my 23 years with the department, I have never seen morale so low, end quote. Another woman from Mississippi told me that we need our leaders to, quote, drop a forceful hammer. People are losing patience. It simply must be stopped. Laws must be enforced. No one is above the law, end quote. Don't fret. Through smart, positive actions of resolute citizen patriots, we can prevail. Always keep in mind that our enemy, these dark forces, invariably have difficulties of which we are ignorant. For most Americans, these forces appear to be strong. I sense they are desperate. I also sense that only a slight push on our part is all that is required to defeat these forces. How should that push come? Prayers help and prayers matter, but action is also a remedy. Our law enforcement professionals, from the dispatcher to the detective and from the cop to the commissioner, are a line of defense against the corrupt and the criminal. It is how we remain for now in a state of relatively peaceful existence. We must support them with all of our being. They are not the enemy. They bring light to the darkness of night through their bravery and determination to do their jobs without fanfare and with tremendous sacrifice. The silent majority, the indifferent, tend to go the way of those leading them. We are not map or mind readers. We are humans fraught with all the hopes and fears that flesh is heir to. We must not become lost in this battle. We must resoundingly follow our God-given common sense. Seek the truth. This is what Muhammad said. Seek the truth. Fight for it in everything that is displayed before you. Don't trust the fake news or false prophets. Life magazine, 1961. Trust your instincts and your common sense. Those with a conscience know the difference between right and wrong. Those with courage will also always choose the harder right over the easier wrong. Sound like Charlie Daniels? I believe the attacks being presented to us today are part of a well-orchestrated and well-funded effort that uses racism as its sword to aggravate our battlefield dispositions. This weapon is used to leverage and legitimize violence and crime, not to seek or serve the truth. The dark forces, weapons formed against us, serve one purpose: to promote radical social change through power and control. Socialism and the creation of a socialist society are their ultimate goals. They are also intent on driving God out of our families, our schools, and our courts. They are even seeking the very removal of God from our churches, essentially hoping to remove God from our everyday lives. Remember, we will only remain united as, quote, one nation under God. And yes, there is a resistance movement by the forces of darkness. However, we must also resist these onslaughts and instead take the optimistic view of our situation. Like war, optimism can be pervasive and helps to subdue any rising sense of fear. We must, however, be deliberate about our optimism. Otherwise, we may get lost in discouragement and despair of any failings we encounter. We must be tenacious in the ultimate end we wish to gain. That end is to remain an unwavering constitutional republic based on a set of Judeo-Christian values and principles. We must not fear these and instead embrace each. Our path requires course corrections. To move our experiment in democracy forward, we should fight and reject the tired and failed political past and instead pursue a more correct path that shines a bright light on liberty, a path with greater and greater control of our livelihoods, instead of being controlled by fewer and fewer of the too long in power politicians. They have discarded us like old trash. Our will, our individual liberties and freedoms remain powerful forces and must be understood and aptly applied smartly. We must not be overly stubborn. Following the Constitution is our guide, and adapting to changes we have throughout our history, we learn more about what freedoms humans desire. At times, however, we have to fall back on what got us here. We cannot afford to lose our God-given human rights and the strong inner desire for freedom to choose and to breathe the fresh air of liberty. We must stand up and speak out to challenge our so-called leaders of government. We put them in charge. We can remove them as well. It is through our rights and privileges as American citizens that we challenge the political class and leverage our election process so, quote, we the people, end quote, can decide who will govern. We must not allow a small percentage of the powerful to overtake our position on America's battlefield. We, as a free-thinking and acting individuals, must control how we will live and not allow a few passionate others to change our way of life. To the silent and currently indifferent majority, wake up. America is at risk of being lost in the dustbin of history to socialism. The very heart and soul of America is at stake. In war, as in life, most failure comes from inaction. We face a pivotal moment that can change the course of history of our nation. We the people, must challenge every politician at every level. We also must stand and support our law enforcement professionals. They are the pointy end of the spear defending us against anarchy. Now is the time to act. General Michael Flynn. 3 incredible freedom fighters: Muhammad Ali, Charlie Daniels, and General Michael Flynn. The deep state wants us to believe that all is lost, that the game, the war, the battle is already over, that they have prevailed. Don't listen to them. Listen to the words, the inspiration of Muhammad Ali, of Charlie Daniels, of General Michael Flynn. That is what the deep state does not want you to know about or listen to. It's time to channel Muhammad Ali, Charlie Daniels, and General Michael Flynn. And in so doing, we will end the reign of terror by the deep state. I thank you for your time. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big, dare to fail. I hope you'll join us on the subscription platform. Without the support of our subscribers at davejanda.com, this YouTube channel, our radio show, and the website would not exist. Become part of our freedom family. It's the biggest bang for the buck in all the internet. Extra shows, extra content, access to all of our archives. All there for you. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail.